The Cinderella. Bought from some website for probably too much, this has been described as many things. Big, sparkly, purple. But this is a modern-day doomsday charm, a harbinger of chaos. In the last 4 months, this toy has brought on the end of not only the careers of 2 YouTubers, but also the death of an entire business. So I tell you again, traveller, tread carefully, lest ye enter Cinderella's palace. Alright, let's meet the players. The 3 main figures of this entire debacle are internet adjacent, Parlo, and Avalon/Zillow. Out of all these people, Parlo is probably the guy you've heard of. He was the big man on campus, owner of a channel of over 600,000 subscribers, your one-stop shop for daily Roblox drama. Stubborn to a T and persistent through humiliation. As a result, his lack of knowing when to stop has made him the target of some very insane trolls. Coming into this situation, Parlo was already going through what I can only describe as some sort of biblical plague. He had set aside months of his life to make an expose on Pyrocynical. Even if you told him the expose was too long for people to actually care, Parlo stuck by his guns as usual, and started fighting with literally every person who disagreed. But soon he had guns in his face, mostly after messaging a 17-year-old on Discord trying to get some ass in a hotel in Liverpool. But without checking what this person looks like, or even what they sound like, Parlo stumbled his way into messaging a 12-year-old in disguise. That caused cops at his door, a disown from his parents, and vigilantes striking at the heart of his channel. That brings us to internet adjacent. No, not internet anarchist, that's a different guy. Also known as Wolfgang, a 21-year-old furry. Also proficient in the art of commentary slop, having built his own career on daily commentary videos. Also a man who's covered Pyrocynical and Parlo's document. Is that how they met? Probably not, because despite covering his work, Parlo and internet adjacent have been getting hot and heavy in each other's DMs for a while. Is that compromising internet adjacent's neutrality and fair coverage of a topic if he's trying to the guy who is positively covering online? Of course, but that's the breach of journalistic ethics you need when you're aiming for the 20k subscriber mark. Not a remarkable guy before this, but he does have a past in the furry community. More on that later. Finally, we have Zillow, who we'll be calling Avalon for most of this video. Despite being younger than both of them, Avalon works as the channel manager for Parlo, internet adjacent, and a couple others. Now you may be asking yourself, channel manager? What does bro even do? Well, it's about taking care of demonetization, copyright strikes. He even says he optimizes SEO and thumbnails. Gotta say, I don't know how an 18-year-old whose only prior experience on YouTube is posting boy kisser memes has the golden eye for SEO. To start this off, we will attempt to piece together the timeline from both Parlo and Wolfgang's Google documents. Don't worry, we will get to how they posted them, but for something like this, with both parties giving endless responses, we really need a reliable timeline. From October 11th to October 15th, 2025, Parlo was planning to meet with internet adjacent in an Airbnb in North London. We don't need to get into the preceding pillow talk and how we got into the situation, we just need to establish that Parlo and internet adjacent were very fond of each other and wanted to be more intimate. So internet adjacent paid for the Airbnb and Parlo paid for the plane ticket. Wolfgang lands in London and takes the tube to Willesden. Have you all made it? At internet adjacent. I'm going to make you blow as quick as humanly possible. You have no idea. Okay, YouTube, he's talking about blowing on his food because it's hot. Okay? Please? Well, actually, that's not true. Do you want to do it shortly after I get there or right when I arrive? I'm hungry and I need to eat. Now, contrary to common sense, Parlo is not referring to gobbling on internet adjacent's hog. Well, he might be doing a double entendre, but also he hadn't eaten in 32 hours, so he could be, all clean and ready. But when the genuine article came to his doorstep, it wasn't quite what Parlo envisioned. He suddenly wasn't down for it for whatever reason. Later inquiries revealed this reason was because Wolfgang wasn't as pretty as the Discord picture showed. Welcome to Zoomer dating. Despite apparently not wanting to get down to town with Wolfgang, Parlo said he felt obliged to fulfill expectations. And well, you know, they got started. Sometime later, Wolfgang offered to go the full mile again, getting out some protection. According to who you believe, Parlo said yes, then said he was too tired, or Wolfgang got it out to pressure Parlo, and he declined. Either way, Wolfgang made the genius move to instead leave the protection on the shelf. And by this, he does not mean that he left the pack on the shelf and put the now opened one in the bin. No. The opened one stayed on the shelf for the entire trip. The most that happened is that Parlo had a ballroom dance with Wolfgang's purple sparkly Cinderella, brought all the way from America. Along with the wrapper, the Cinderella stayed up on the shelf. Parlo also says during this first interaction was a rogue finger. I can't do this, man. And Parlo says he did not want this rogue finger. Wolfgang denies this and said that Parlo did give affirmative verbal consent. And that was the end of that. Instead of getting filled up in the Airbnb, Parlo got filled up at the KFC, or wherever they went. Five Guys? I don't know. The next day, Parlo, Wolfgang, and Avalon headed out to London. Wolfgang Bueller's day out was pretty eventful, going to the centre of London, play fighting a 17-year-old friend in Hyde Park, and throwing up on himself. There was also a moment later where Internet Adjacent took a picture of them kissing in bed without Parlo knowing, and then sent it round to friends, also without Parlo knowing. The next day, October 13th, is where things truly begin to fall apart. During some time in the evening, Parlo and Avalon were chilling in a living room. Wolfgang wanted to join them, but had to keep going back and forth between his bedroom and the living room. He had to charge his phone, and the outlet in the main room wasn't working. Or at least that's his story. According to Parlo, he kept going back and forth to try and coerce or seduce him into his room every time. For a while, Parlo was doing the Chad move of just playing Minecraft and writing his parasynical document. But eventually, Parlo did go into Wolfgang's room, and, well, you know, they had fun. Internet Adjacent says they'd agreed on it before and it happened naturally. Parlo says he was pressured into this. This leads to the last major incident during this whole thing, which only happened an hour after the previous one. The three planned on meeting a friend in London to go clubbing, but obviously they all needed to go for a shower. Parlo says he went for that shower, only to have Wolfgang come into the bathroom mid-shower, get into the shower, and offer to rub soap on his back. Parlo was seemingly huddled away from him, and reluctantly agreed to rub soap on Wolfgang's back. Wolfgang denies all this and says they just both hopped in the shower to save time, and Parlo didn't do his back. Keep in mind that when Wolfgang first touched down in London, one of the first things he wanted was to do it in the shower. So this response is a little muted for my liking. According to Internet Adjacent, by the time they came out, Avalon had already gone to the train station. He might have gotten jealous of them and stormed out, I'm really not sure. Parlo then started to cry and told Wolfgang off. He went looking for Avalon whilst Wolfgang fell asleep. During this, we know that Avalon and Parlo had a conversation. We don't know what happened in this conversation, but we know that when Wolfgang woke up, Parlo was secretly recording him and admitted he didn't feel very good about their encounters.
When we did stuff, I felt rather pressured to do it. I just felt kind of pressured to do stuff for you because I didn't want to make you feel upset if I didn't do anything.
You can tell me no when it comes to that stuff. You don't have to.
I know, but I felt afraid that if saying no would just you off because I spent about 1,000 on that ticket. But regarding the shower stuff, I was like saying I do you want to have a shower first before after me?
I'm sorry.
And then regarding like stuff, you like ripped. You were like, oh, do you want to do it now? Do you want to do it now?
Yeah, and then you said sure, and I took. And then you're like, no. I'm like, okay, I put it back.
Why would I say that?
That's what you said.
I feel like it was rushed a little too much, you feel me? I just feel like sometimes, I don't think you intend for it, but sometimes you just push in, it puts a lot of stress on me.
I'm sorry.
As soon as Avalon and Parlo got their things and left, both parties geared up for war. I can guarantee that as soon as Parlo walked out that door, the phone hit his hand like Mjolnir with Google Docs already open. Both Wolfgang and Parlo began talking to close friends and also commentary YouTubers, not even commentary YouTubers they knew well. What ensued from here onwards was a game of telephone, with three people caught in the middle as liaisons. These three people were A-Space, Samuel, and Himpleton. Over the next few weeks, these three heard all the disgusting details from both sides regarding the fabled Airbnb. They all noted issues with both sides of the situation. Parlo was so stubborn, unable to concede on pretty much anything, to the point that most people talking to him just gave up. You can see this from his document, where he frames normal conversations into, actually whilst I was enthusiastic, in reality I was crying and shaking and my pants. His framing of situations and omission omissions of detail to make it sound worse kept coming up. Parlo privately retold the story of Wolfgang's play fight with the 17-year-old, but left out that it was a play fight and the 17-year-old was a friend of his, so it sounded like Wolfgang just fought some random kid in London. Meanwhile, Internet Adjacent was suspicious and unreliable, pushing his own allegations as if it was some new hot story. Apparently the versions of his story that he gave to Ace, Sam and Himpleton were totally contradictory to one another. According to Himpleton, Wolfgang lied about prior accusations at a music festival, when in reality it was the furry convention Anthrocon. Internet Adjacent began leaking the story to other YouTubers and used them as leverage for some sort of confrontation call. Yet, mutual friends of both parties urged them for peace, and although both people were ready to release something, neither of them actually wanted to do it in fear of what the other person's document would do, mutually assured destruction with Google Documents. This went on for so long that people like Himpleton grew tired of the content blueballing, but any release was looking less and less likely, especially when the management company intervened. Yes, Parlo, Avalon and Internet Adjacent weren't just random friends online. Parlo and Wolfgang were signed to the same management company, and Avalon was a manager. Obviously for the company this was an impending disaster, so Avalon and the owner, Artica Snowpaw, Disney-ass name by the way, organised a call with Parlo and Wolfgang, and as all recollections went, this was a pretty productive call. Both parties were angry at each other, but agreed to settle it for reputational reasons. An NDA was even being set out. Mission accomplished. Yet, no amount of careful middle management can account for the devil on the shoulder. The group chat of Ace, Sam and Himpleton got wind of the call after it happened, and got a lot more than they were even expecting. Avalon sent Samuel a screenshot saying that he didn't have full power over Parlo as a business manager. Despite his warnings, Parlo may continue with the document. Was this actually his intention? We don't know for sure, and neither did anyone else. The message certainly looked bad enough, and Himpleton, being the crafty little fellow that he is, leaked this to Wolfgang. Without much deliberation, Internet Adjacent decided the choice had already been made. Without messaging anyone else, Wolfgang soon released his document. Seeing this, Himpleton then went to Parlo. Parlo freaked out and dropped his response, making this whole situation public. So Himpleton got his content, and to be fair, he's very honest and upfront about the fact that this was for drama farming. I can't hate an honest man, and whilst it's easy to blame him for this coming out, this was a very avoidable scenario. The fact that all these big people put their stock in a small drama streamer who they didn't even know that well is insane. Even with this message, a conversation and clarification could have diffused everything, but instead, we got this. In both of their documents, Parlo and Internet Adjacent recount their separate versions of what happened between them. They also brought up other incidents and points against each other from different times. Parlo has a lot of these. He brings up Wolfgang's weird behaviour around Avalon just before and after he turned 18. He brings up his debate with Wolfgang about what furry is morally right. The main thing he brings up is Anthrocon 2024. This was a past situation accusing Wolfgang of SA, among other things. The story as I understand it is that Wolfgang goes to Anthrocon and is hanging out with some fellow furries. One of them is scrolling through gay furry Tinder looking for a one-night stand. Wolfgang notices, offers to be the one-night stand, and then he puts his hand on the person's knee. The whole trip was full of this, with Wolfgang becoming attached, holding hands, hands on knees, trying to kiss. So yeah, that's the SA, but the situation does at least show that Wolfgang may have an issue with boundaries. His issues with attachment were certainly true with Parlo. Wolfgang showed off how obsessed he was with Parlo by calling him future boyfriend in his phone contact. At some time later, he also admitted to a mutual friend called Alex Farron that he wanted to have kids with Parlo. Yep, you heard that right. Little green kids running around with his Roblox trad boy wife. What is the story, man? Why? You wanted to have kids with Parlo? Whilst I don't know if Wolfgang was guilty of the Anthrocon accusations, his reaction to them was very strange. He also apparently baited his claims that I hate talking about, especially when the accused actually went to hospital. The only reason I mentioned this is because Internet Adjacent did a similar thing with Parlo. Wolfgang expressed to Alex Farron that he felt very upset because Parlo hadn't talked with him for ages. A few days later, he ended up in the hospital, and sent Parlo a picture of him on a hospital bed with his psych ward socks on. It definitely looks guilt-trippy, especially with no caption or message added on. In comparison to Parlo, Wolfgang did not bring up any other points. except one, and it's an important one, so pay attention. Remember how this whole trip started with Parlo flying over Wolfgang to the UK? Well, that is interesting, considering how Parlo was running a GoFundMe at the exact same time, titled Please Help. What exactly was this GoFundMe for, you ask? Well, you know, basic amenities like rent, food and bills. And yet, whilst Parlo was running this GoFundMe, he had spent over $1,000 on a plane ticket and another $1,000 on a gaming laptop. Whilst it's obvious Internet Adjacent uses this as a blatant distraction, the reveal of Parlo's payments does put forward a good question. Parlo had been over, left for dead, dissed and forgotten. They'd kicked him out of his house, the police were at his throat, things had gotten so bad that he'd raised a GoFundMe for basic food and bills. So why at the same time was he flying over another person, spending about a month's finances just for leisure, a love affair? Feeling rather happy about the nuke he had just dropped, Internet Adjacent decided to jump onto Himpleton's stream. After 3 hours of going through both documents, Himpleton undeafened, and Internet Adjacent was ready for questions, while still at work. To be clear, Himpleton is not at all armed with questions and gets caught flat-footed, but he still manages to make Wolfgang sweat. The questions about his arguments and mental health start to cut through.
How about that part where Parlo, shows that you were saying to a mutual the only time that Parlo ever responds to you is when you're upset, and
that is what it felt like to me, at least personally. That's exactly what it felt like. That may not be true, but
so does that explain why you sent him that picture when you were in the hospital?
No, that was just me going to the hospital and being like, I'm here in the hospital, so I'm not going to be messaging much.
I mean, that might be easier to believe if you didn't just send him the picture, no text or explanation or anything. Wolfgang really starts to crumble when Himpleton begins pressing him on the kissing picture claim.
Did you send the picture of you making out with Parlo to other people?
I do not believe so. I absolutely don't. I can't think of a single person that I would have sent that to. If there's an example of me doing it, then I'll apologize for it, because yeah, that is. But
how do you not know?
I wouldn't remember something like that.
What do you?
That's why I'm saying.
Why wouldn't you remember something like that?
How would I remember doing that? I don't.
What
I don't
are you
know.
talking about? Do you not? What do you mean? How would you not remember that?
I don't know what you want me to say. So that's why I'm saying, if there is an instance of me doing it, then Parlo can send it to me and I'll apologize to him for it, because yeah, that is.
This is such a strange response. Saying I didn't do this, unless there's proof of me doing this, then I'm sorry for that. You know, maybe he should have read the document against him before he went on, seeing that there was already proof of something he's denying.
So that's you with an unnamed person. You say this was an hour ago. I don't know what this is. We were making out. I see.
That's very of me, and I apologize for that, Parlo.
And you just don't remember that?
I have zero idea. I do not. It's like I said, I'm not a perfect person. If there are genuine errors I've made in the situation, then I'm fully willing to apologize for them.
And you were receiving affirmative yeses in those encounters specifically. Is
yes,
what you're saying as well.
I was like, do you want to go in here and do something? And he's like, yeah, sure.
After 30 more minutes of being pressed, mostly on the stuff about Avalon, Wolfgang starts to get a little tetchy. He begins complaining about how the viewers are not taking these allegations 100% seriously, and why they're instead asking him if he was gay or how big Cinderella was. Truly troubling times here. Eventually, Internet Adjacent just leaves the call. He tells Himpleton this is just because his work break is over and he's busy again. But as we're about to learn, that's not true. Because instead of making these poor people their pizzas, Wolfgang runs to the stream of Dickers. Really? A drama about two men making sweet man love? And the guy to analyze the whole operation is gonna be Dickers? Dickers, another YouTube drama streamer with around 2,000 subscribers, hadn't even made his way through either document before Internet Adjacent called in to explain his side and take questions. Dickers would start posing his thoughts on the leaks recording from the Airbnb, and it was clear the same thing was going to happen again. Except this time, Parlo was watching and poised to call in. Let's pause for a second, because this is probably one of the dumbest things Parlo could have done in the situation. It's clear that all he had to do was watch Internet Adjacent bury himself, but instead of that, he jumped in to deliver the death blow. And by doing so, both of their careers had become irreparable. With Parlo coming on, he was bringing attention towards the situation, especially from his many detractors. I doubt people would have even bothered to read both documents. But when both parties are live on video, giving out all these absurd details, stuff just put out there to humiliate the other person, that makes it way easier. People like to listen more than they like to look, which is why you've got this video in the background whilst you're drawing on your tablet or playing a game. Dickers' stream peaks at over 500 viewers, with Parlo and internet adjacent debating their allegations, throwing their documents at each other live. Despite the allegations being levied, it was very funny to watch this debate unfold, because when would this ever happen ever in any other situation? Alongside the details we already know, there was also some new stuff added on. For example, why did Parlo's mood change so much when he saw internet adjacent? Well, as we know, he didn't look as nice as he did on Discord, and also, he was smelly. He was smelly. He was a smelly boy. One of the most interesting moments was internet adjacent tampering with evidence. During the bedroom incident, Wolfgang messaged a friend named Bite saying he was trying to get Parlo into his bed. Then after this whole thing, internet adjacent deleted this DM and flatly said the real screenshot was fake. This is an obviously implicating thing to do, and it hurt his credibility hard.
Have you deleted a DM?
No, I did not.
Oh.
Because why would this person say take it easy after you'd said 6 hours before? That sounds fun. It seems pretty clear here that you have just gone back and deleted a message.
I guess I might. Wait.
Very meticulously, by the way. That was the one single message deleted. Wonder why.
As for Parlo, despite all the arguments that he had, there was one thing he couldn't escape.
So, I had my GoFundMe linked to my account, but I didn't complete a couple steps until weeks after the GoFundMe was originally done, and that GoFundMe was signal boosted by my goodbye video. So if I go onto my GoFundMe right now, it is advertised as a GoFundMe for legal expenses and also just like food and stuff, because I don't really have a channel right now considering I've got like 2 strikes. So
this is just a lie. If you read the GoFundMe, the page itself is based around food, rent and bills, and the potential legal funds are not the primary reason. Quote, I do not ask for anything that you do not feel comfortable sending, but if you wish, all I kindly ask is a small donation to help me pay for expenses, food, rent, and other amenities in this horrible period of time. Also, with potential funds for further action I may take. Parlo's framing it here as if the GoFundMe was for a lawsuit and also food and bills, when in the GoFundMe, he's talking about potential funds. A lawsuit hadn't even existed at the time.
Parlo, do you understand how if I was a member of the public, reading your
yes, I know how it
GoFundMe, rent, food, and monthly bills, and it's like stipulated that it's a horrible period of time. You need potentially you need funds for further action. Talk about your diagnoses, you being a victim, etc.
Yes, but the money from that was not used to pay for that because I only got it transferred weeks after. Because I didn't link that to my nationwide account.
Parlo just does not understand the point here. The technicalities of the situation are not what matters. Parlo probably did not spend the specific GoFundMe money directly on flying out Wolfgang. What he did was frame himself in a desperate situation, not even being able to live paycheck to paycheck and have basic amenities. At the same time, he flew his online lover out for a 3-day date. People who are crowdfunding for food don't go on holidays. Parlo's getting hung up on specific details to distract from the actual criticism. In the aftermath of these streams, more and more of the Roblox audience woke up to hear the news. And for Parlo, all the stars aligned at the exact wrong time. At some point, Parlo and Wolfgang were going to release a joint response. Yet it was very obvious they disagreed on so much, and by now this was out of their hands. Parlo was constantly fighting with people in his Twitter circle. Jilted Roblox YouTubers like Alex Tanuki took this time to get their own story out there and moralize about how bad this all was. This then got about 1,000,000% worse when the big Roblox drama YouTubers covered the story, namely a guy called Guamgo. Guamgo and Parlo have had a rocky history, but as of recently, they had been on good terms. With Parlo's channel on the precipice of deletion, Guamgo allowed him to upload to his channel and earn money. But seeing this controversy, he jumped ship, making a video turning on Parlo and leaking some of their DMs. Meltdown doesn't even begin to describe what was happening to Parlo. He went on a 3-hour Discord stage to plead his innocence. He called into Dickers again to say that he was ending everything and blood would be on everyone's hands. In the midst of this all, one of Parlo's friends and channel manager, Mugen, logged into his channel and went rogue for his own good. He posted unlisted NSFW to the channel, got a bunch of people to flag it, and with one more strike, Parlo's channel of 600,000 subscribers was gone. If you're an outsider or may have heard of Parlo a couple of times before, this whole implosion might be a bit confusing. I mean, for such a person covering all these drama situations, the GoFundMe was the way he went out. Even I was sitting there thinking this was the career ender? What about all the details of the actual allegations? But one thing I haven't spoke about in this video is that Parlo has a long history of other controversies. Either he covered the drama or he was the drama. This being on top after the dupe stuff, the Paracynical document, stuff like Homotopia, was the killer. The straw that broke the camel's back. On November 28th, Internet Adjacent uploaded the Parlo video. At over 40 minutes long, this is an extensive response to every part of the situation. There isn't much new to say from this video, as is with all of Internet Adjacent's content. He just denies a lot of the allegations as he had done before. Yet there are some newly man-made horrors we get to see in the form of DMs. In his document, Parlo alleged Internet Adjacent pushed the idea of filming him at the Airbnb. But, as shown from Internet Adjacent's video, Parlo was well up for being on camera, in extensively horny detail. He then responds to the claims of him grooming Avalon.
The entire grooming claim is just downright false. I have been friends with Avalon for a very long time, and at no point had I ever been sexual or romantic towards him, nor was he that way towards me. We were never like that. It wasn't until after he turned 18 that Avalon started coming on to me and offering the idea of a three-way between me, him, and Parlo. After Parlo made this accusation, I actually went to Avalon and others in our friend circle to genuinely figure out what the f is going on. Parlo made this claim, but was going to drop it after Avalon put pressure on him, but is now using it again because Parlo has the biggest victim complex in the world.
Internet Adjacent also made the choice to combat other allegations that people weren't really talking about. Before being exposed, Wolfgang would appear on some drama live streams. One of these was the Oplock, another YouTube drama streamer with around 2,000 subscribers. And during his look at the situation, Falgi, who runs the Oplock channel, expressed some concerns about Wolfgang. Apparently, Wolfgang had tried to invite Avalon to the Oplock Discord server. The server is 18+, yet Avalon was 17 at the time, and Wolfgang was apparently trying to smuggle him in. In his video, Internet Adjacent gives his response.
There was also an incident where I invited Avalon to the Opblock server when he was 17, but he wasn't allowed in because the server was 18+. I invited him there because he wants to be a manager for a lot of YouTubers, so I figured I could invite him to a server with multiple creators so he could potentially rub elbows. When Avalon joined, he was put in the verification channel, and when I asked the owner if he was allowed in, they said it was only 18+, so I told Avalon he had to leave. People are trying to spin this as me wanting to put a minor in an 18+ space, but the reality is I just wasn't aware of the age requirement for the server when I invited him. He never got past the verification channel, and I mean, the Opblock server isn't it's not like or anything, so I didn't assume it was 18+.
Wolfgang's point here rests upon almost impossible standards. To say that he didn't know the Opblock server was 18+ is just improbable and insane to me. In that case, he would have ignored all promotions of the server where it says it's 18+, the very first rule on the server, and the Welcome Mat channel where new users were immediately asked for their age. According to Falgi, Wolfgang directly tried to get him into the server, using his position to get their favor. In the 24 hours following this upload, Internet Adjacent saw his video was getting positive reactions. He gleefully went on a victory lap and left his channel in the hands of his good friend No Sleep Jerry. Yet whilst he was celebrating, Wolfgang was bringing attention to himself. Some people noticed how weak his point against Falgi was and knew there had to be something deeper. That led them to his Discord server. On December 2nd, Beckett of Cope and Seethe went live to catch up on the Cinderella situation, with Dickers brought along as a guide. The stream was on track as a decent recap until they brought Jerry on and had a conversation. During this, they found that Wolfgang's Discord had been previously 18+. Over the last year, he opened it to accept people above the age of 16. There was also a screenshot of Jerry posting sexual thigh pics of Avalon from when he was a minor. Not for any predatory reason to be clear, but still something weird weird to have in there. If this was on Wolfgang's server, and posted by someone who he had now entrusted his channel with, it questioned what Wolfgang knew about Avalon. He had denied anything sexual with Avalon, but this called into question his intentions when he was earlier trying to reel Avalon into his and Parlo's activities. Inevitably, Parlo then hops on the call and says he has proof Wolfgang was talking about detailed sexual situations and asking for NSFW commissions in his server. Screenshots provided much later show this to be the case. He also said Wolfgang was inconsistent on moderating the server, and he even allowed some minors in. At some point, his moderation team included 2 minors. It was only in June 2025, when Kiwi Farmer started looking into it, that he purged the entire server. Seeing this on-stream development, Wolfgang basically shat himself. He was wiping the whole Discord server, banning everyone related to commentary, including members of the makeshift panel. He then changed his Discord name to Leave Me the alone. Obviously, he was gonna have to answer some questions.
So you were sexual with Avalon before he turned 18, right? You lied about that.
I was not sexual with Avalon. I mentioned topics that were, at the very least, inappropriate.
And you invited him to join in all threesome.
I did not invite him to join in the threesome.
So on the 21st of September, you ask Parlo about a threesome. On the 25th, Avalon recalls a conversation you had and then shares a message of you sharing a DM between you and Parlo where you're asking if he'd be involved in a threesome. This is why you're on call together. You asked Avalon first about this threesome.
We were talking about it.
That's a that's a slightly different thing that you said before. Apparently he's bringing it up. He's coming on to you. When you were talking to Avalon, you asked him first, didn't you? You say, well, you know, we were talking about it. Who asked who first?
I believe I did, I guess. We were talking about
right.
We were talking about
fantastic. Okay. And you asked him before he was 18, didn't you?
We were talking about the bounds of like what is allowed in our individual relationships.
And those were sexual topics, weren't they? If you were talking about those were sexual topics, weren't they? Yeah. You also lied about the fact that Avalon is apparently trying to push Parlo to be able to remove Parlo's claims about you and Avalon from Parlo's video.
That was what he told me.
That's not what he told you. I've seen the DMs. You asked him to speak to Parlo about it.
Yeah, and then he was like,
said, sure.
I'll see if I can get something in the video about it.
The way you framed it in your video is if Avalon really wants Parlo. He's really been trying, I believe is exactly what you said. He's been trying to get Parlo to remove this from the video. Because nobody wants him to talk about this. It's not true. You asked Avalon to pass along a message to Parlo.
Mm-hmm.
True or false?
It was a mutual discussion.
It was not, because everybody's seen the DMs. You ask him, true or false, you ask him to pass along a message.
Yeah.
True or false? That's true, right? Was that a mm-hmm? Well, your mic's cutting out, I guess.
Oh, did he just run? Is he done? Are we... dude.
He left the group.
This call-in is really bad. Even if you're not confident in saying anything definitive about Wolfgang and Avalon, he's been caught on multiple blatant lies. Cast your mind back to his video and his statement on him and Avalon. That is aging worse and worse by the minute. This really is Dickus' finest hour in this entire drama. The revelations almost hide the fact that Parlo spent the last 2 hours egotistically arguing with the panel about Internet Jason preying on Avalon. Completely supersedes getting baited by Tyrone 9000 in the chat over and over again. On the rare occasion he kept quiet, the accused just buried himself. On December 4th, Wolfgang accepted a live interview from Himbleton, and if you thought it couldn't get worse for him, oh boy were you wrong. In these 3 hours, his reputation was completely melted. 20 minutes into the stream, they ask Wolfgang if he it on call with Parlo and Avalon, and you can hear how he tries to slither away and cover himself with lies.
Did you a call with Avalon and Parlo?
Yeah.
Did you ask for consent to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of wearing a pretty revealing outfit at that time in the group chat.
And you directly asked, can I off?
I was like, yeah, you guys okay if I do this?
And they both said yes.
I know for a fact Parlo was fine with it. I mean, there's potential Zillow wasn't, but I was not aware of that.
No, did Avalon say yes?
That would, yeah, I was like...
But then why is there potential for him to have not been fine with it? If he had said yes initially, wouldn't that be the first thing that you let off with?
Yeah.
Why didn't you lead off with that then?
Because I mean, I'm just trying to take an objective look at the situation. I don't know.
I mean, don't you agree that him saying yes would have been objectively what happened if that was true?
Yeah.
So is it true? Or did he just not say anything?
He was fine with it.
But did he say yes, or did he not say anything?
It was kind of like a mix of, it was like, hey, do you guys mind if I do this? And he was like, eh. It was kind of like disinterest in general.
Somebody get me the goddamn document.
Somebody get this man a shield.
Yeah.
Wolfgang also admitted to straight up being a pathological liar, a huge concession for Parlo's side. When pressed on the finger incident, Wolfgang admits this wasn't preceded by an enthusiastic yes, but instead it was non-verbal consent. Another big concession of changing his story. Like clockwork, Internet Adjacent left around the 2-hour mark, and Parlo then hopped back in for a quick little victory lap. You'd think after this humiliating affair, Internet Adjacent would just give up. I mean, his entire reputation's cooked to anyone paying attention, but the very next day, Wolfgang said he was back to making videos and called in again, this time to the op block. In this one, he gets pressed a lot more on his friendship to Avalon prior to him turning 18. Apparently, he hadn't seen any pictures of Avalon when he was 17, but he did have his phone number and kept him around on an 18+ server, again reinforcing how much of a lie his original statement was. If there's anything to take away from this segment, it's that Internet Adjacent is, first and foremost, a total sexual deviant. If we're going by that call with Avalon. The man is a self-admitted liar, who should never be trusted again in his field of work. He's also an entirely irresponsible individual when it comes to his Discord server. At this point, people started throwing away Wolfgang's defenses and believing Parlo's accusations. If only it didn't come out the very next day that the entire time this was happening, Parlo was in a relationship with his star witness. On December 5th, 2025, Himbleton posted a Twitter thread with a 7-minute call attached to it. Inside this call, Avalon is bragging to Alex Farron about getting with Parlo at the Airbnb, and his plan to cuck and humiliate Internet Adjacent.
If it went public, it would have to be done, like, very right, and it'd probably have to be seen as, like, some sort of gay op against Wolfgang.
Right, because, like, if it did go public that you and Parlo had in the Airbnb,
it would
fuel conspiracy theories.
And it would also, like, possibly devalidate a lot of Parlo's points. Shouldn't be mentioned until it's, like, helpful to, like, Parlo's side. For about 15 minutes before Wolfgang woke up and came into the living room, me and Parlo were making out. The second that Wolfgang came in, Parlo immediately got up and went to the opposite sofa and the opposite side of the room. He was mentioning how he wants me to come back with him to his house so we could and, like, he wanted to spend the night with me. We were chatting, and he was into me, and he was probably horny. And he just kind of, reflected that on Wolfgang. We basically had this thing called Operation Wildcard. It went on for about a month. Basically, we were like, Wolfgang's annoying as... why don't we just cuck him? We've wanted to drop him for a while, like, before all of this shit. We decide, like, while we're at it, we might as well have the achievement of cucking him. Because he was so obsessed with Parlo, we were just like, yeah, might as well. Wolfgang obsessing over Parlo for like 3 months. Didn't even take me 30 minutes. We're just kind of laughing to ourselves because we know when we spill the beans with him, it's going to be so funny. I'm going to drop him, and then I'm just going to say, oh, by the way, you know how you were obsessing over Parlo for 3 months straight? Yeah, I f***ed him 2 hours before you landed, mate. You can basically clip anything I say, except the about me and Parlo.
Okay, aside from the fact that it is very funny that there was yet more stuff going on in this Airbnb, this is our first full picture of Avalon we've gotten so far, and it paints him out as a total snake. In case you've forgotten, this is a guy who is Internet Adjacent's channel manager. The fact there was even a whole group gathering under Operation Wildcard is pathetic. Operation Wildcard? It's gay. If this released before Wolfgang's call-ins, this would have changed a lot of perceptions. Even Avalon knows that this makes Parlo look worse. Whilst we don't know whether Parlo was involved in the operation and he denies it, we now know at least that Avalon and Parlo got together at the Airbnb. That's a big thing to leave out of a story where you're using Avalon as a key witness. remember that Parlo tried to model Avalon as an unbiased third-party witness during both Beckett and Dickers' streams. He can debate Peter all he wants about this point, but it's very obvious how he presented it to you, me, and them.
I have Avalon, who's going to be like attesting to everything because he was the one who was present watching all of this. And he has like virtually no incentive to lie, considering every single platform I've had has been completely taken now.
Now, as snaky as Avalon has been, this entire segment isn't about hating him, because with the spotlight shifting over and people realizing, oh, the other guy sucks as well, the cogs were turning. From the start, it was puzzling how this 17, 18-year-old was managing huge YouTube channels and being an SEO expert. As I said before, his docket of work was blowing up off sexual furry memes from a young age. Some people speculate that the strange people around Avalon affected his change in content. In particular, it mirrored that of Vexium Swift, furry meme poster by day, adult star on Twitter by night. Vexium is a strange individual, especially to someone that knew him back when he was doing commentary videos. He's an excessively sexually explicit person, and God help you if you see any of those videos. And seeing Avalon copying his content, you do start to hear alarm bells ringing. I don't want to accuse Vexium of anything because truthfully, I don't fully know what happened, but when I hear that Avalon was following Vexium's NSFW account as a minor, that makes me suspicious. When his only measure to keep him away was to reply saying please block me instead of actually removing him, that sounds like he did it more for optics than actual purpose. In a twist not even M. Night Shyamalan would think of, Vexium Swift also had allegations with other minors and being sexual with them. This turned into the Vexium Swift drama, which is kind of the prequel to this current situation. We got recurring characters like Avalon, Jerry, and even Wolfgang himself. It took a year until Vexium gave a full response to these allegations. There's a lot of other stuff he addresses, but the things that I'm interested in are these leaked calls that Vexium had. In this call, Avalon is with a user named Artica. If that name rings any bells, yes, that is the same Artica Snowpaw Disney-ass name that runs the big influencer management company in the story. Apparently, Artica approached Avalon about making an NSFW company together. Avalon was a minor at the time, around 15 to 16 years old. Vexium shows that Artica was 21. That context only makes this clip far worse, where Artica talks with Avalon about flying him out to the UK.
Yeah, anyway, how you doing, Artica?
Yes, travel plans.
Oh.
So, I have to make the decision on if I'm coming to the UK on the 11th.
Yeah.
Once I buy these tickets, I can't get a refund for them. If you want a ticket, I can go ahead and buy you one when they come out on the 11th. But I need to know that for sure, as they're not refundable.
If you can go, I can go.
We've got 10,000 for the trip, but it's not worth anything if I can't get that passport in order.
Not only are these videos disturbing, it calls into question the entire process around Artica and his company. As far as we know, they included 3 YouTubers: Parlo, Internet Adjacent, and Guamgo, as well as Avalon obviously. There's also someone called Alex, but I'm not entirely sure who this could be referring to. At least 3 of these people were fighting with each other online. And at the very least, this influencer management company had a case of interpersonal relationships for malicious intent. That's at least gotta be like a call to HR or something. Zenova Influencer Network, which is the name of the company, is something I find so fascinating in the story. After all, how did Artica get to this position? Both him and Avalon claimed that Mr. Beast had offered them $1 million to sign to his team. This is most certainly an obvious lie, but what kind of management company would have its CEO tell such a lie? And what might concern me more is Artica's relationship with Avalon. Well, we would start to find out more details to all these suspicions through a complete accident. On December 9th, 2025, Dickers was live covering the usual internet drama of the day. About 6.5 hours into a stream, he received a message on Discord, one that wasn't meant for him. Before this, Dickers contacted Artica about why he terminated Wolfgang's influencer contract. Artica sent a statement saying Wolfgang tried to keep secrets from others. Pretty vague. He then said everything should have remained private and extended an apology to everyone involved. All fine, except 20 minutes later, Dickers received another message. In this one, Artica is berating Parlo, Wolfgang, Avalon, and Alex for not shutting up. He also rants at how this streamer that everyone was afraid of, aka Dickers, was milking cash out of his apology. Artica ends his message by going at everyone one by one, saying to Avalon that he should know better. Despite everything, Artica, Avalon, Wolfgang, and Parlo were still in some sort of business group chat. Artica deleted his message, but it was too little, too late. Dickers had a Discord client that saved deleted DMs, and pulled it up on stream.
And now, their Discord status has gone from do not disturb to invisible.
Artica then makes some out-of-this-world guess that Dickers would have a client that saves DMs. Obviously, he was watching the stream. Dickers asked, hey, are you listening to the stream? Because, I mean, yeah. Artica then plays dumb and says he didn't know Dickers was live. This blatant blunder led to Artica calling in and facing the music.
Is there a group chat right now between Wolfgang, Zillow, Parlo, and Alex and yourself?
No, there was, but it's all been deleted.
But you typed this statement out with the intention to send it to several other people?
Yes. Did I actually do it? No.
What's the collaboration between these people then? Why are these people all in a group chat together?
Honestly, I don't know.
Come on, you're business partners with Avalon.
I don't manage anybody anymore. I quit.
You quit? You're a 60% shareholder in the business, no?
I quit. I'm done.
So you've handed the business all over to Zillow?
Yep.
Artica goes on to say Wolfgang was threatening a lawsuit. This would have been both against the company, as well as Artica and Avalon personally. This gives us more of an insight into how the company itself worked, if you can even call it a company.
To be clear, since the company is a startup and the only people funding it is my bank account, we don't have any legality to store people under a company contract. So the contracts are personalized, they're individual.
So when you're saying that a lawsuit is going to be filed against Avalon personally and the business, you're saying there is no business for Wolfgang to be able to sue?
There's a business name, but there's nothing tied to it right now.
Please take this as a reminder to know who you're working for. This conversation sparks up questions about Artica's other business ventures, and the mood really changes.
Was there ever a planned endeavor to start a company?
Yes. We've been planning for roughly 2 years.
And that was with Zillow as a business partner, right?
Correct.
So that was when he was 16.
So, correction, I started planning, but Zillow just kind of tagged along when he was of age. Concepting has been in planning for 2 years. Zillow joining and knowing about this about 2 months.
How long have you been in business with Zillow in terms of the YouTube management business?
I've been trying to mentor Zillow on how to grow his own channel first.
Zillow had a channel where he would trace over furry graphic art for use on YouTube, right? To make it within TOS?
I'm not gonna comment on that.
I mean, that is the content on his channel, right?
Okay.
I mean, it seems like you accept that. So how long have you been mentoring Zillow on his channel?
Since it started.
When he was 15 years old. Or younger, actually. He would have been 15 this time 3 years ago. He would have been 14 when he created his channel. I mean, would you characterize your relationship with Zillow as totally wholesome?
Yes.
But you're aware that Zillow is engaged with NSFW topics as kind of a mainstay of his kind of online behavior.
Well, I am aware now.
Sorry, I thought you'd been helping to mentor him and manage his channel.
I have been, but I don't do thumbnails.
Do you watch the videos?
Rarely. I knew that his content was rough around the edges, but I did not know.
So rough around the edges. He was engaging with like sexual topics, right?
Yes, as you said.
You didn't think to dissuade him from that behavior online?
What someone does on their channel is up to them. If I am mentoring them on how to look at their analytics, I don't mentor the content.
So you gave him analytics advice, but you never had a conversation of how the analytics transition to the content that he produces?
We did.
Have you ever had a conversation with Avalon specifically about sexual topics before he was over the age of 18? Because what I've heard is that you were drunk in a VC with Avalon, talking about potentially returning to doing work.
It might have been within one of my psychosis things, or I don't know.
In the story that I'm hearing, you are drunk.
Okay, then I was drunk.
And this would have been while Avalon was 16, or possibly slightly younger.
Sure.
That sounds more than a mentoring relationship, if you're having conversations about your work with him when he's a kid.
That is true, but I was drunk at the time, and I do apologize for that. Everyone makes mistakes. And we're just, right now, we're just turning a mental disaster and me being drunk into profit. by having this conversation.
So this is the conversation you had with Internet Adjacent, the 26th of November, just a couple weeks ago, probably, thereabouts.
You talked about starting a company with Artica when you were like 16.
Yeah, and me and Art...
That's pretty weird.
Want to talk about having... Well, yeah, that was my idea. I want Art. Yeah.
You're talking about making an entire
for money, mate.
You started a company with Avalon when he was 16, right?
Sure, you can say that.
Okay, so his involvement wasn't just when he was over the age of 18?
Sure.
So why lie about that?
Because obviously it doesn't look good. It is just concepts. We are just talking concepts. So a discrete lineup, Pringles can, was one of the ideas that we came up. And we just have a list, and that's it. But
so given the fact that you've had this business idea with Avalon over the last 2 years, would you characterize your relationship with Avalon broadly, now that they're 18, in retrospect, as pretty sexually inappropriate?
It depends on whose definition.
What was it about Avalon that made you think that you wanted to go into business with the guy? I mean, going into business with somebody who's 16, they can't invest a lot of money. They probably have no work experience themselves. So going into a business partnership and brainstorming together ideas for a business, that seems quite odd. What was it about Avalon that made you think he'd be a good business partner?
I am going to, well, for one, it wasn't any kind of crazy crap, but I'm getting tired, and it was a nice stream, Diggers. But I'm going to go.
That's okay. I appreciate you hopping on, all right? Have a good night. Chat to you later.
I truthfully don't know what Zenova Influencer Network was meant to be. Was it some sort of ambitious project to manage YouTubers, or was this a front for Artica getting close to Avalon, blindsiding him with a constant emphasis and pursuit for money? The way that Artica dodges the killer question speaks volumes to me. So, where does that leave all our characters? Well, Internet Adjacent left YouTube, then came back. He's still trying to slop his way through everything, despite the alarming revelations. Don't get it twisted, Wolfgang is a pathological liar and sexual deviant, and that's me being kind. The allegations that have now made him stand out from the boundless world of slop commentary may very well prove how replaceable he can be. Meanwhile, Parlo has released a 3-hour video responding to everyone. In terms of Internet Adjacent, it's okay. In terms of Parlo himself, it's pretty sloppy. Framing certain DMs, having a double standard, scolding everyone for not taking the big sparkly Cinderella seriously when that was a totally useless detail, not even worth including in your document. I'm sure this was really important for the video, but the part about his relationship with Avalon or the fact it wasn't disclosed? Nah, not there, not even mentioned. He also apologizes for the GoFundMe, but clarifies that he didn't say he was broke and still bought the items, which also now includes an iPhone. Essentially, Parlo made a GoFundMe for food and bills that he could already afford. It's a roundabout way of doing a scam, but it is a scam, or at least it would have been successful if he didn't get called out on it. I correctly pointed this out in the video premiere chat, and Parlo banned me, then accused me of being paid by Internet Adjacent to be some devil's advocate, so that was fun. During this video premiere, Parlo made a shotgun blast of allegations against the Roblox YouTubers Ruben Sim and Shilep and their associates. Then after the video premiere, he immediately hopped on Himbleton's stream again, got pressed on these new allegations, and admitted he had no proof of what happened. He also admitted that he continued to have a relationship with Avalon after the Airbnb stuff, and to this day, he remains under Avalon's contract and the two are still working together. There's also this clip from him talking about his response.
I'm just gonna lie. There'll be a few lies in the video. One, that I'm sorry to Arham, because Arham is a hypocrite and he's made the exact same jokes. 2, being that I don't own the channel. And 3, being that I'm extremely sorry for the document, even though the document talked about me being and somehow people just don't care about that.
If you want my honest answer on what really happened at the Airbnb, I can only say, I don't know. Both sides have lied in different ways, one by exaggeration and the other by omission. I guess whatever happened there doesn't really matter now. It won't change how much of a freak Internet Adjacent has been. It won't change how Parlo tried to scam his audience, or the numerous other things he's been exposed for. That's kind of why I just find this whole situation funny. These are meticulous liars who, in the middle of their serious accusations, included the most embarrassing information on God's green earth to destroy each other, only to have their attempts completely overshadowed by their absurdity. personality. Constantly firing, always trying to have the last laugh, parading around their ego when they're up, only to get comically exposed a day later. Some people might say this is a cautionary tale of mad, mutually assured destruction, but I assure you that it's really a lesson on a very, very simple concept, named TMI. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay safe and stay toasty.